Hey, church family. If someone asked you to explain the gospel, what would you say? What is the good news of the Christian faith? When Paul is writing to the Galatians, he made it clear that we can be pulled away by false gospels, especially those that tell us that we can earn God's love through good deeds. And when we look at Galatians Chapter 3, I think about the story that I read about the great boxer Muhammad Ali. He was asked in an interview in 2001 what he thought of religion. And his response was, and I'm paraphrasing here, that rivers and streams and lakes and oceans are all the same and that they all contain water. And he went on to explain that he believes that religions all work the same way. They're just all different ways to get to God. The interviewer then asked him about his Muslim faith, and he responded that he was trying to live his life in a manner in which his good was going to outweigh his bad so that he could be accepted by God. And that's what a lot of religions are. If your good outweighs your bad, you go to heaven. If your bad outweighs your good, well, you don't. So then every day then becomes this fight to try to reach God's standard. But the Bible says that none are righteous, no, not one. So Paul writes to the Galatians in chapter 3 that they're free from all of that. It's not keeping the law that saves you, but it's faith in Jesus Christ. And those Judaizers that we've been talking about were trying to tell them that Jesus was a good teacher, but that simply wasn't enough. That they had to follow the law. And Paul was trying to show the new Gentile converts that this simply wasn't the case. So you have this church of Jew and Gentile believers coming from two different backgrounds, and they're trying to be sensitive to each other. Some of those Jews were pressuring the Gentiles, saying that you had to believe this and you had to believe that. And they were even trying to tell them that you had to be circumcised in order to be saved. And that's probably not the best church growth strategy, right? But it was causing Gentiles to walk away. But they were really walking away from ritual and tradition and, of course, circumcision. These legalistic rules that were stealing the power of the gospel. And Paul writes to them in verses 1 through 3 of chapter 3 of Galatians. He says this. He says, "You foolish Galatians, who has cast a spell on you before your eyes? Jesus Christ was publicly portrayed as crucified. I only want to learn this from you. Did you receive the Spirit by the works of the law, or by believing what you heard? Are you so foolish? After beginning by the Spirit, are you now finishing by the flesh?" Paul is trying to open their eyes to the fact that they once experienced the awesome grace of God's power, and now they were throwing it all away to be people pleasers. The Galatians, for so long as Gentiles, had been cast aside and thought of as second-class citizens by the Jews. And now that they had received grace from God, they're now trading it in for an identity that was driven by those false teachers who were trying to lead them astray. We live in a culture today that says if we don't agree with or do exactly what somebody else thinks or what somebody else says that we should do, then we're instantly vilified for it. We live in a culture that says we have to go along with everyone else in order to be accepted, or in some extreme circumstances, even lose the ability to live a normal life. This is what cancel culture is trying to do in our society, and they are out for the Christians. But as followers of Jesus Christ, we should not trade the wonders of God's grace and mercy through Jesus Christ just to please people or go along to get along. We as Christians should stand up and stand on God's truth and not back down to those who try to shout us down or those who try to manipulate the gospel in order to justify their own sin. God bless you, church family. I'll see you next time as we look at Galatians chapter 4.